Another part of your business that we said that we'll talk a little bit about is your creative outlet of being on OnlyFans.
Yeah.
And so for those listening who don't know what OnlyFans is, can you explain from your perspective and the way in which you use it? Can you explain that? Because a lot of times people say, oh, that person can travel because of daddy's money, or that person can travel because of a rich partner, or that person can travel because of all the excuses that we say why people can travel and why we can't.
Yeah.
And you fund a lot of your travels and a lot of your life through the profit that you make through your OnlyFans account. So
Absolutely.
from your perspective, what is OnlyFans and how do you use it in that capacity?
Well, for those listening that don't know what it is at all, I assume that everyone does, but a subscription-based platform that you can use for any sort of business. What happened during the pandemic is models and girls and creators and, well, men and women, but creators on Instagram were like, how can I profit from home creating content online? Because they were no longer doing shoots and gigs and whatnot. And it took off. And that meant every industry hopped on the bandwagon. So the pornographic industry was like, oh, absolutely. And for a lot of people in the porn industry, they were like, I don't want to be someone be my boss. I want to be my own boss. I want to have the rights to my own content and create my own content the way that I feel and post it as I want to and profit as much as I can without having to, take a cut and be told what to do. And so that's where the stigma came, because obviously the porn industry very easily makes waves and ripples in the media. So I had always spoken out against it with friends or whatever. I was just like, that's not for me. I don't get it. I had a very negative actually outlook on it, because I was like, I don't want my worth to be at the hand of someone paying for my content. And I also judged people for being on there. If it was pornographic, I was like, oh, so like you're in porn. And I was very negative and very judgmental. And then a little bit of a self-awareness moment. I was like, wait, I like post myself naked online all the time for free. If anything, they're smarter. At least they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. Maybe they're onto something. And it kind of took me 2 months of really every single conversation I could have with my family, my friends, my work. Like, is this going to cause problems in my life? Is it going to offer abundance? Just weighing the pros and cons, risk and reward. And now being 2 years into it, I can say that it's caused a few problems in my life, and none in any of the ways that other people on social media are like, you're never going to find a husband. People aren't going to respect you. Your family won't respect you. Like, my family supports it. They celebrate it. My partner, who do you think takes my photos?
I was going to say he takes the pictures.
Yeah. Who do you think is behind the camera? And like, he's actually like my creative director at times. He's like, oh babe, like that's perfect. Like let's do this shoot. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like pop off king. And he celebrates it more than I do, really. But I've had other people that are close in my life really judge it. And I've had a lot of challenges of how to find the right verbiage. The biggest takeaway is that we're all going to do something on the spectrum of discomfort in someone else's eyes. To someone, what you're wearing right now is like, how could she wear that? Like out in public, depending on the culture or the country. I think that sometimes people are so quick to judge based off of their cultural background and their roots and past. And I think that it's one of those things where it's like, if it doesn't harm you, if it doesn't hurt you, it shouldn't affect you. You shouldn't even have an opinion on it. You may not understand it, but how can you judge something you don't understand? If you don't know about it, how can you even talk on it? And for me, it is such a creative outlet. I love being open and sensual and free with my body. I think that's so important for women. And there's like this reverse feminine movement happening on social media where it's like, you think you're empowering yourself, but men are taking advantage of you. And I'm like, I really don't know what you're talking about. I'm topless, microdosing on a beach in Nicaragua. I just bought land with the love of my life. I have an agency that helps me curate and strategize on everything so that I'm doing this at my fullest potential, and I love it.
And you're making money.
Yeah.
Like, hello.
Hello.
It feels good, it looks good, and it's putting money in your bank account. Like
we're doing okay, girly pops.
Yeah.
Like, no need to judge. And I think that right now it's hard to not come at it with like a combative energy because it's just so easy, especially with sister wounds. And for other girls to be like, oh, like her tits are online. Well, that explains that. I get so much of that. And
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm like, what? At some time and some point in someone's life, you've done something that someone could say the same. And for that reason, we're just the blind leading the blind. There's no reason for us to point fingers, but in fact, like celebrate each other. It's like, oh, you do that and you love it? It's cool. And I think it's just about having unconditional, like, I don't want to say love because it's such a strong word. And I feel like some people can't digest that, but like love for people. Like, you don't have to understand it or like it.
It's almost like compassion.
Yeah.
Like you said, you don't have to love it. You don't have to like it. You don't even have to agree with it. But
Yeah.
you could just leave me alone and not comment on it. You know?
Correct.
Comment online, comment in real life. Like if it's like you said, if it's not harming you personally, then what's the problem, right? And like kind of like what you said earlier about one person's treasure is another person's, pain. It's what you're putting out there for some people is inspiring them to travel. It's inspiring them to be open with their bodies. You're starting so many conversations online about what true sensuality is, about sensuality versus sexuality, about self-empowerment and body positivity, not just in this fluff, like in actually loving your body and how it is. And so I think there's a lot of positives in having these open conversations about,
for sure,
not just from the monetary side of things of what OnlyFans can do, but also the power that it gives to creators to be able to show what they want to show.